Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every human life when the excuses stop working. A moment when blaming your parents, your past, society, your government, or fate no longer protects you from the quiet, crushing realization that your life is not what it could be. And that moment is terrifying because it places responsibility exactly where it belongs, on you. Personal responsibility is the foundation of a meaningful life, and that idea is far more demanding than it sounds. It is easy to say the words, to repeat them like a slogan, but it is extraordinarily difficult to live them. Responsibility means accepting that your life, in its present form, is largely the result of your own decisions, your own habits, and your own willingness or unwillingness to act when you knew you should. That realization can feel crushing because it removes the comfort of excuses, but it is also the only realization that gives you real power. If everything wrong in your life is someone else's fault, then there is nothing you can do to fix it. You are trapped. But the moment you accept responsibility, even partial responsibility, you gain leverage. You gain the ability to change. Meaning begins exactly there, at the point where you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What am I going to do about it?" Many people confuse responsibility with guilt or self-hatred. That is a mistake. Responsibility is not about endlessly punishing yourself for past errors. It is about telling the truth about your current position and deciding to move forward honestly. You may have been treated unfairly. You may have been damaged by circumstances beyond your control. That is real, and it matters. But suffering does not disappear when you deny responsibility. It only becomes more chaotic and more destructive. A meaningful life is not one without pain. It is one where pain is voluntarily confronted and transformed into something useful. Responsibility does exactly that. It gives suffering a direction. When you take responsibility, you are saying, "This is my burden, and I will carry it." And in carrying it, you discover strength you did not know you had. Look closely at people who lack meaning. They drift. They are resentful. They feel life is happening to them rather than something they are participating in. They want rewards without discipline, respect without effort, confidence without competence. Over time, that gap between what they want and what they are willing to do fills with bitterness. Responsibility closes that gap. It aligns desire with action. When you accept responsibility, you also accept limits. You realize you are not perfect. You are not all-knowing. You are not entitled to constant comfort. And strangely enough, this humility is freeing. When you stop pretending you are something you are not, you can begin building something real. You can start where you actually are, not where you wish you were. Responsibility also forces you to confront truth. And truth is often painful. It might mean admitting that you are disorganized, unreliable, or avoiding effort. It might mean recognizing that you have contributed to the breakdown of a relationship you blame entirely on the other person. Truth is not gentle, but it is precise. And precision matters, because vague problems cannot be solved. Small acts of responsibility matter more than grand declarations. You do not transform your life by making dramatic promises you cannot keep. You transform it by doing small, difficult things consistently. You get up when you said you would. You do the task you are avoiding. You stop lying, especially to yourself. These actions seem insignificant, but they accumulate. Order grows slowly, like a structure built one brick at a time. Personal responsibility also gives life weight. When your actions matter, your life matters. When you know that what you do today affects tomorrow, your choices gain significance. You are no longer a passive observer waiting for motivation or inspiration. You become an active participant, someone who acts even when it is uncomfortable, even when fear is present. There is also a moral dimension to responsibility. When you refuse responsibility, someone else eventually has to carry the consequences. Your family, your colleagues, society at large. Chaos does not stay contained. When individuals fail to take responsibility for their own lives, the burden spreads outward. That is why personal responsibility is not selfish. It is ethical. It reduces unnecessary suffering in the world. A meaningful life requires sacrifice. You sacrifice comfort for growth. You sacrifice ease for competence. You sacrifice short-term pleasure for long-term stability. Responsibility teaches you what is worth sacrificing for. Without it, pleasure becomes empty, and achievements feel hollow. With it, even struggle feels justified. Time is ruthless. It rewards those who act and punishes those who delay. Every day you avoid responsibility, you reinforce the identity of someone who avoids responsibility. Every day you confront it, even imperfectly, you strengthen the identity of someone capable of facing reality. Over years, those identities diverge dramatically. One leads to regret, the other leads to meaning. So if your life feels empty, chaotic, or bitter, do not start by demanding that the world change. Start by asking what responsibility you are avoiding. Start by fixing one small thing you know is wrong. Meaning does not announce itself loudly. It grows quietly, in the space created when you decide to carry your load instead of dropping it. Before you attempt to change the world, you must understand the necessity of order in your own life. This is not a moral insult, and it is not a dismissal of your ideals. It is a recognition of reality. A person who lives in chaos carries that chaos wherever they go. Disorder in your habits, your thinking, and your responsibilities does not remain private. It leaks outward into your relationships, your work, and your ambitions. You cannot build something stable on an unstable foundation. Order is not oppression, and discipline is not cruelty. They are the structures that make freedom possible. Without order, your life is ruled by impulse, emotion, and distraction. You react instead of act. You are constantly putting out fires that never needed to start. When your environment is disorganized, your mind mirrors that disorder. You become overwhelmed, anxious, and resentful. Not because life is unfair, but because you have failed to impose structure where it is required. Many people want to confront large, abstract problems, politics, systems, ideologies, because it allows them to avoid the far more painful task of confronting themselves. It is easier to argue about how the world should be than to admit that you are neglecting your health, avoiding responsibility, or refusing to grow up. But grand solutions offered by disordered individuals tend to produce more chaos, not less. History is filled with examples of this mistake. Order begins with small, almost embarrassingly simple acts. You clean your room. You organize your schedule. You show up on time. You take care of your body. These are not trivial details, they are signals to yourself that you are capable of self-regulation. When you cannot manage your immediate environment, your attempts to manage anything larger are fantasies. Reality does not bend to intention, it responds to competence. There is a psychological reason order matters so deeply. Human beings need a balance between chaos and structure. Too much chaos produces anxiety and paralysis. Too much rigidity produces resentment and rebellion. But without a basic framework of order, creativity and growth cannot survive. Order is the container that allows you to explore without falling apart. It gives you a place to stand while you face uncertainty. When your life lacks order, you become fragile. Small setbacks feel catastrophic. Minor criticism feels like an attack. You live in a constant state of defense because everything feels overwhelming. Order strengthens you. It gives you resilience. When your basic responsibilities are handled, you have energy left to face real challenges instead of being exhausted by self-created problems. There is also an ethical responsibility involved in building order. When you fail to take care of yourself, you increase the burden on others. Your irresponsibility becomes their stress. Your lack of discipline becomes their emergency. Order is not just for your benefit. It is a form of respect for the people who depend on you, directly or indirectly. Changing the world is an attractive idea because it promises meaning without humility. Fixing yourself requires you to admit that you are not yet what you should be. That admission is painful, it threatens your ego, but without it, your ideals become hollow. You cannot demand justice while practicing irresponsibility. You cannot preach order while living in chaos. Your life must embody the values you claim to hold. Building order is not about perfection. It is about direction. You will fail. You will fall behind. You will make mistakes. But order gives you a way back. It provides routines, standards, and principles that guide you when motivation disappears. Motivation is unreliable. Discipline is not. There is a dangerous arrogance in believing you are exempt from the rules of reality. That belief often hides behind noble language. People say they are too creative, too intelligent, or too independent for structure. But chaos does not care about your self-image. It erodes potential just as easily as it erodes weakness. Many talented people destroy their own futures because they refuse the discipline that would have protected them. When order enters your life, something remarkable happens. Your confidence grows, not because you feel good, but because you know you can rely on yourself. Self-trust is built through consistent action, not positive thinking. Each small act of order reinforces the belief that you are someone who can handle responsibility. That belief changes how you walk, how you speak, and how you face difficulty. The world does not need more opinions shouted by disorganized individuals. It needs people who have put their lives together well enough to carry responsibility without resentment. When you build order within yourself, your influence becomes constructive instead of destructive. You stop spreading chaos and start reducing it. So before you attempt to fix society, fix your schedule. Before you try to correct others, correct your habits. Before you demand meaning from the world, create order in your own life. That is where real change begins, and without it, every attempt to improve the world collapses under the weight of your own disorder. Small daily disciplines are not impressive, and that is precisely why they are powerful. They do not attract attention. They do not feel heroic. They do not provide instant reward, and yet, they are the invisible forces that determine whether your future becomes stable or collapses into regret. People often wait for a dramatic turning point, a moment of motivation so strong that it carries them forward without effort. That moment rarely comes. Life is shaped instead by what you do repeatedly, especially on the days when you do not feel like doing anything at all. Most long-term failure is not the result of a single catastrophic mistake. It is the outcome of thousands of small acts of avoidance. One skipped responsibility seems harmless. One dishonest shortcut feels insignificant. One day of neglect does not appear to matter, but these moments accumulate. Neglect compounds in the same way discipline does, only in the opposite direction. What you fail to do today makes tomorrow heavier, and eventually the weight becomes unbearable. Daily discipline is not about intensity, it is about consistency. You do not need to transform your life overnight. You need to show up for it every day. When you take care of small responsibilities, your health, your work, your environment, you reduce future chaos. You make life easier, not harder. This is deeply counterintuitive to people who chase comfort, because discipline feels uncomfortable in the moment. But avoidance produces far greater suffering later. Consider how quickly disorder spreads when left unattended. A messy room becomes unlivable. A neglected relationship becomes resentful. A small health issue becomes a chronic condition. Life punishes inattention relentlessly. Discipline is the act of paying attention before the cost becomes severe. It is preventative, not dramatic. And that is why so many people underestimate it. There is also a psychological transformation that occurs through daily discipline. Each time you keep a small promise to yourself, you strengthen your identity. You become someone who follows through. Self-respect is not granted by others. It is earned through repeated evidence that you can be trusted by yourself. Without that trust, confidence is impossible. You may project confidence, but internally you know you are unreliable, and that knowledge erodes your character. Discipline also protects you from emotional instability. When your life lacks structure, your emotions dominate your decisions. You act when you feel motivated and stop when you feel tired or bored. That makes your life unpredictable and fragile. Discipline creates a stable framework that holds you steady when emotions fluctuate. You act according to principle, not impulse. Many people misunderstand discipline as a form of self-punishment. In reality, it is an act of self-respect. You do not brush your teeth because you hate yourself. You do it because you care about your future health. The same principle applies to mental, physical, and moral discipline. You impose structure now to prevent suffering later. That is not cruelty, it is wisdom. Avoidance feels good in the short term. It provides relief. Discipline feels heavy at first, but these feelings are deceptive. Avoidance increases anxiety over time. Discipline reduces it. When you know you are handling what needs to be handled, your mind becomes calmer. The background noise of guilt and dread fades. Peace is often the result of responsibility, not the absence of effort. Daily discipline also trains your capacity to face difficulty. Life does not become easier as you age, it becomes more complex. Responsibilities increase. Consequences become more serious. If you have not trained yourself to do difficult things regularly, you will be overwhelmed when real pressure arrives. Small disciplines are preparation. They build strength quietly so that when life tests you, you do not collapse. There is a moral element here as well. Your lack of discipline does not affect only you. When you fail to prepare, others must compensate. When you neglect your duties, someone else carries the burden. Discipline is a way of minimizing unnecessary suffering in the world. It is a private act with public consequences. People often say they lack motivation, but motivation follows action, not the other way around. You do not act because you feel motivated. You feel motivated because you act. Discipline breaks the paralysis of waiting. It moves you forward even when clarity is absent, and clarity often appears only after you begin. The tragedy is not that discipline is difficult. The tragedy is that people trade a life of manageable effort for a life of overwhelming regret. They avoid small discomforts and inherit large disasters. Daily discipline is the opposite choice. It is choosing the weight you can carry now instead of the crushing burden you cannot carry later. So if you want to prevent future chaos, stop waiting for inspiration. Start with one small act you know you should do today. Do it badly if necessary, but do it. Then repeat tomorrow. Your future self is being built in these moments, whether you acknowledge it or not. Avoiding the truth may feel like protection, but in reality, it is a slow and deliberate form of self-destruction. Human beings have an extraordinary capacity to lie to themselves, not always with words, but with silence, delay, and rationalization. We tell ourselves that things will somehow work out, that the problem is not that serious, that now is not the right time. And while we are busy justifying our inaction, the truth we are avoiding grows stronger, heavier, and more dangerous. Truth has a strange quality. It does not disappear when ignored. It waits. It accumulates pressure. The unpaid bill, the failing relationship, the neglected health, the unfulfilled potential. None of these vanish because you refuse to look at them. They sit quietly in the background, shaping your future whether you acknowledge them or not. Avoidance is not neutral. It is an active choice with long-term consequences. The reason people avoid truth is not because they are stupid, but because truth demands change. It demands sacrifice. It demands that you let go of comfortable lies and face the discomfort of growth. When you admit the truth, you can no longer pretend you are powerless. You can no longer blame circumstances alone. And that responsibility is frightening, because it means your suffering is not accidental. It is, at least in part, chosen. Self-deception corrodes character. Each time you tell yourself a lie and act as if it were true, you weaken your ability to perceive reality accurately. Over time, you stop trusting your own perceptions. Confusion replaces clarity. Anxiety replaces confidence. You feel lost, not because life is meaningless, but because you have trained yourself to look away. What matters. There is a cost to this that people rarely calculate. When you live in avoidance, you become reactive. You are always responding to crises instead of preventing them. Your life feels chaotic, not because chaos is inevitable, but because truth has been delayed for too long. Small truths ignored become large problems. Minor dishonesty becomes a fractured identity. Truth is painful precisely because it is corrective. It shows you where you are misaligned with reality. It exposes weakness, incompetence, and fear. But that exposure is the first step towards strength. You cannot fix what you refuse to name. You cannot improve what you deny exists. Truth is the prerequisite for growth, not its enemy. There is also a moral dimension to truth that extends beyond the individual. When you lie to yourself, you eventually lie to others, not always verbally, but through broken promises, unmet expectations, and inconsistent behavior. People around you begin to feel unstable because they cannot rely on you. Trust erodes quietly. Relationships decay without dramatic explosions, replaced by distance, resentment, and disappointment. Avoiding truth also steals your future. You cannot aim accurately if you refuse to see your target. You may have dreams, ambitions, and ideals, but without truth, they remain fantasies. Reality demands precision. Truth gives you that precision. It tells you where you are weak, so you know where to strengthen yourself. It tells you what is broken, so you know what must be repaired. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the willingness to act despite it. Facing the truth requires courage because it threatens the story you tell yourself about who you are. But that story, if built on lies, is fragile. It collapses under pressure. A life built on truth may begin painfully, but it becomes resilient. You can stand on it without fear that it will crumble. People often believe that truth will destroy them. The opposite is usually the case. What destroys people is the prolonged stress of living a lie. The constant mental effort required to avoid reality drains energy, creativity, and hope. When the truth is finally faced, there is often relief alongside the pain. The weight of pretending is lifted. Truth also restores agency. When you tell the truth, even when it is uncomfortable, you regain control of your actions. You stop being a victim of hidden forces and become an active participant in your own life. You can make informed decisions instead of desperate reactions. The longer truth is avoided, the more brutal it becomes when it finally emerges. Life has a way of forcing reality upon you when you refuse to face it voluntarily. Illness, failure, and loss often arrive as messengers of truth. They are not cruel, they are corrective. But their lessons are far harsher than the quiet voice you ignored earlier. So speak the truth, first to yourself. Admit what you know but have been avoiding. Name the problem clearly. Accept the discomfort of honesty now, because the alternative is far worse. Truth may hurt, but lies destroy. And the longer you wait, the deeper the damage becomes.